International Law channel of YouTube, and thank you for following me and subscribe in this channel, International Law. We talk about the international law, security, compliance, compliance for the enterprise. We talk about the anti-corruption, and now we talk with Martin Arostegui, the most important journalist in the world. I'm sure of this. Journalist is really very important in this world. Thank you so much, Martin Arostegui, for this meeting, this podcast number 10. Yeah, it's number 10 of this podcast. Thank you so much, Martin.
Thank you very much, Christian, and thanks a lot for promoting me. By the way, I'm not sure I quite fit being that important, but you know, thanks for the plug anyway. Yeah, I think what we probably should talk about today, or start to talk about, I think, is what's happening in Canada. Although what's happening in Canada is actually rather different from the perspective I'm going to offer. Is rather different from what you're getting in the news. Of course, Canada's been in the news because of the truckers' march on Ottawa, and they're basically a truckers' strike across the country to demand that President Trudeau lift these his mandates, his anti-COVID mandates, which are among the most draconian in the world. I mean, you know, after countries like China, Canada have some of the strictest anti-COVID restrictions applied in any part of the world. People have described when they were put in quarantine, trying to get Canadians when coming into the country, if they're unvaxxed or don't have, or considered to be or possibly infected, with put in conditions which resemble a concentration camp. You know, for 1 or 2 weeks, this is what's been going on. I mean, there are interprovincial. You aren't even allowed to travel between provinces unless you have a COVID passport at one stage. So truckers finally got sick of this, and they turned against the government of Trudeau. They decided to start a movement to have to pressure for the mandates to be lifted. So we know what's going on now. I think it's all over the news. I mean, they blocked off Ottawa. They're blocking 2 key border crossings into the U.S. with their trucks. I believe the police are beginning to move in on one of the blocking points this afternoon using violence, although the reports are still sketchy, but it's beginning to happen when the broadcast started. And Trudeau does not, although he's beginning, and other Canadian authorities are beginning to give way on the issue of on winding down the mandates, the anti-COVID mandates, force every Canadian to get vaccinated or virtually can't live. Trudeau will not budge on the issue of eliminating them altogether. And even if you've seen it, or allowing legislation to be introduced that would make it much more difficult for the future government to do this. But aside from that, it's interesting that behind all this, aside from that, there's some interesting news regarding Canada's relations with China. And one of them is the fact that a Chinese company, Jiangxing, the ZINJIN mining group, which is a state-controlled or state-connected Chinese company, has just bought the Lithium, a major company in Canada, which was going public on the Toronto Stock Exchange, and was raising money for lithium projects throughout the world, including Argentina, and possibly Canada itself, which may have the possibility also have valuable deposits of lithium. This is after that there was a bid again by a Chinese group, the Jiangxing, corporation to acquire another lithium mining concern, another lithium mining company listed in Vancouver. Again, with projects, lithium projects all over the world. As I've talked to you, as I said before, these are, China is embarked on a policy, on a project, on a program to control the world's lithium supply. They want to create a cartel of lithium producers. And they've made some major headways in controlling lithium production in the Western Hemisphere. In Latin America in particular, they've got the total concession for the lithium deposits in Bolivia, to the point that a German company that tried to get a portion of it was chased out of Bolivia for I think about 1 or 2 years ago. And they're now moving in on the lithium deposits in Argentina, which seem to have this Canadian, and from there, that's possibly the Canadian connection, because I think lithium mining projects in Argentina, as is being reported, are controlled by these companies in Canada, which China has now moved to own, take over. So what stands out about this takeover of lithium producers in Canada is that there was no kind of security review whatsoever of the move by a Chinese state company to take over what is considered a strategic energy industry today. None. It didn't seem to require any investigation by the Canadian government. The Canadian government didn't investigate it. They didn't send it up to be reviewed for the national security problem. It was rubber stamped, basically, by the government of Prime Minister Trudeau to give the Chinese control over a key lithium producing project or projects. So this calls into question the extent to which China may have penetrated Canada. In fact, it's interesting that the mandates that the truckers are complaining about, as I said at the beginning of my talk, my broadcast, are among the most draconian anti-COVID mandates in the world outside of China. In fact, the interprovincial travel, the ban on interstate travel in Canada, is modeled after the Chinese system by which you cannot move between the different provinces of China if you're unvaccinated or considered in any way considered a health risk. So it's curious that a government which appears to be in some ways aping the Chinese system so far as their COVID policies are concerned, is also allowing China to take over strategic industries, strategic sectors of the economy, or strategic companies involved in international projects, whether strategic and mineral. And this has been called up. I mean, the Conservative Party Canada has called the government on this, and they're demanding a review of this takeover, and indeed of the activity of Canadian companies in Canada in general. In fact, a book was recently written by a Canadian investigative journalist, I believe his name is James Cooper, who alleges that Chinese government officials are increasingly laundering illicitly gained money into real estate deals in Canada. This has become an established something of a racket. And the money laundering involves proceeds, this is the most incredible part, from the drug trade coming up to the US-Mexico border. Money made through fentanyl and methamphetamine, and methamphetamine, buying methamphetamine, which comes through the Mexico border, which, as I said in our last conversation, is mainly made in China. The fentanyl and the methamphetamine come from China. So you've got a massive underworld racket there, going on there regarding the laundering of illicit Chinese money into real estate and other projects in Canada. You've got Chinese companies there finding no obstacles in taking control of producers of strategic minerals, and a government trying to impose against tremendous popular opposition mandates, which in many ways mirror those applied in China. So it seems that for a long time, it's been said that Trudeau is influenced by China, and that some of his key advisors are influenced by China, including an ex-president of the Bank of Canada, who was one of his closest aides, and a very important man in pushing the U.S. environmental green agenda. And during the past few days, it's curious that all this seems to be coming together.
That's a strategic project for China and the strategy in Latin America too. You talk about Argentina inversion in this project with Canada. That's intromission of the China in this project in private inversion, private investment.
Well, it's private in the sense that it's being done by a company. I mean, the companies involved in lithium are all closely state Chinese, in close control of the Chinese government. So they're following or pushing or promoting an agenda worked out in Beijing, worked out by Chinese communist rulers, or the Chinese Communist Party. And I think this is bound to grow. I mean, the Ganfei, Chinese, one of the Chinese companies involved in these takeovers of Canadian lithium mining concerns, took over Mexico's
Vaca Muerta.
Vaca Muerta, that's right. No, that's Argentina.
Argentina. Mm-hmm.
There's another name, Bacanora lithium fields. Bacanora. Major lithium reserves, Mexico's main lithium reserve, has also been taken over by a Chinese company. And in fact, as a precursor of things to come, the new president of Chile, Boric, has just called for the nationalization, or I think he already has, just moved to nationalize Chile's lithium, and which I think is simply we know where that's going to go. He's going to make a deal with China, the same as the Bolivian government has done, the same as the Argentine government. So in fact, I don't know at this stage, maybe this is interesting to look this up for our next broadcast, to what extent China already controls the lithium the world's lithium production. But it seems that Latin America and the Western Hemisphere in general is an area where they now seem to control a major portion of the lithium reserve.
This is the inversion in the country of Latin America. We can see in this picture of the Deutsche Welle TV. This is the account who have China in Latin America. Venezuela is the principal country, continued Brazil, Ecuador, Argentina, Bolivia, and it's better here. Nicaragua. We push.
No, the list keeps growing.
Bolivia.
As I said, I think we're soon going to see a deal with Chile, where the Chinese presence is now not a bit too pronounced, and it's just going to spread. I mean, you can go down the list, but China's presence and activity, again, in the most strategic sectors of the economy, is growing and becoming almost a monopoly, becoming totally entirely controlled by it. In Venezuela, in fact, they've just upticked oil production in Venezuela. I think it grew by 1% or something. The Venezuela grew by something like 1%. All to China, because China wants more oil. That's all. That's all. So it completely controls the production, oil production in Venezuela. And well, there you have it. I mean,
it's a debt of the Bank of China. It's debt. It's public debt. Deuda pública.
Yes, I mean, the idea is they give the rolling loans to the government, directly to the government.
Directly.
With no kind of review system, or very little review or control or systems in place. And they keep the bureaucracies going, the military in certain instances going. And in return, they mortgage the natural resources of that country. You know, they're doing this. They've done this all over Africa, and they're doing it in Latin America increasingly. So this is the inevitable trend, it seems.
You think in this moment, the lithium is the new energy for the electric car. But in this moment, we talk about the possible war in the world. Maybe the investment in the lithium is stopping around the world. Is possible or is necessary for the world to do a lithium investment?
Is it necessary for the world to invest in lithium? Well, it depends if the idea of having to replace the hydrocarbon industries, hydrocarbon-driven economy, their energy system, gain steam. I mean, this has been an idea that's been promoted very much by the United Nations, well, people in the United Nations, by, again, the head of the UN environmental agency involved in creating, or commission, UN commission involved in promoting renewable fuels, is a man called Mark Carney, who's the next president of the Bank of Canada. And they've been very militant in pushing for the replacement of oil and gas-driven energy with renewable sources of energy, which of course involves lithium. I mean, in my view, Christian, this is absolutely mad. I mean, it's the electric batteries have a lot wrong with them. They're very big, they're very unwieldy. The lithium supply around the world is very low. There's not, so far, I don't think there's enough lithium supply for the kind of highly ambitious electric vehicle fleet that these people want to create. And aside from which, it's increasingly controlled by China. So I don't see this as a win situation. I mean, I think the pushing economy is to depend on electrically powered batteries or electrically powered systems is, for the West and for the free world, is very, very dangerous. I think it endangers our economic security and creates a further leverage, gives China a lever on our energy supply. So I really don't see that it makes much sense, despite the amazing push it gets from people like Mark Carney's politically respectable central banker, and John Kerry, and next UN Secretary of State, and the Biden administration, and a lot of European leaders as well. Although in Europe, they're beginning to see the mistake in this. I mean, now that Russia is threatening to, now that a possible war with Russia is threatening to cut off or interfere with their gas supplies from Russia, they realize how vulnerable they've become by trying to transition to green energy, and how vulnerable that's made their economy and their energy grid.
It's interesting. China have to position in the world with strategic natural resource, how a lithium. That's important for China in this moment, the crisis, international crisis, and the risk with the war, international war. But China have a position in this economic with a lithium battery. Why is going in Canada, this protest is for the China investment or for the government?
No. The protest in Canada actually nothing to do with China. I'm bringing this up as simply giving some background or giving you alternatives, since all eyes are now focused on Canada, on what is going on in Canada in other spheres. They're turning over the lithium producers over to the Chinese, while trying to tyrannize, trying to impose mass mandate, draconian COVID mandates on their population. So it's a curious thing. I mean, of course, you have to look at the personality and background of President Pierre Trudeau. He's, as we know, he's always been a very, very quite left. He's always been a strong leftist inclination. And he had a very close relationship, interestingly enough, with Fidel Castro. To the point that it was even speculated that he was sort of some kind of a legitimate son. Fidel Castro. And his father, of course, had also a relationship with Castro. His father was President Pierre Trudeau. And his father was the one who Castro did him a big favor by giving asylum to separatists of the French-speaking region of Quebec when they during a hostage standoff in Quebec back in the 1960s. And he developed a good relationship with Castro since, which has been fostered and followed very much by his son Justin. And his mother was also a very, very noted leftist views, and also a very close friend of Fidel Castro. I mean, in fact, everybody was somewhat shocked upon when Castro died. Justin Trudeau gave this extremely this laudatory sort of goodbye. I mean, he called Castro a great leader, someone who'd been an inspiring leader for the hemisphere. Just absolute. I mean, it's something you'd expect from from the Communist Party of Cuba, something you would expect it from Chavez. So it's and now we see the result of this, and of course being challenged at home by his own people, and seeing everything so far, it seems to be trying to respond with repression. So he seems to be taking a cue from his mentor, his great friend. His father, his spiritual, should we say, his spiritual father. Yeah. Maybe in other ways too. Who knows?
Oh my God, that's very funny. Oh man, it's possible. This story maybe is possible.
Who knows? Strangest thing that happened. He does seem a bit dark, doesn't he? He does seem to be kind of dark hair, dark eyes. He doesn't look quite Canadian, does he? Yeah. Oh, similar. Oh my God. Okay, that's very funny. Okay, we continue with the lithium international resort in the world. No, it's the more important now with the electric cars and homes. Well, they're trying to make us completely dependent on it. At the same time that China takes control of tries to monopolize, create a cartel or some cartel on them. They're trying to make us more dependent on it, which is an incredible thing. And as far as we can tell, nothing is being done to try to prevent or block the Chinese from taking control of lithium production and lithium reserves throughout the world. So while China moves to take control of lithium reserves throughout the world, nothing is being done to stop it. At the same time, we are being made more dependent on lithium through the green energy projects being pushed by the, shall we call it the global elite.
It's control all. China want to control all in this world. That's the reason. In this moment, the crisis international. All China, Xi Jinping, with a totalitarian regime, because it's a totalitarian regime, how Russia is totalitarian regime, now is positioned in this moment to control all natural resources. For conclusion, dear Martin Arostegui, what are you thinking the Latin America have to do in this moment? Because the debt, the public debt from China is very big, and now these new governments have continued with the debt, the public debt China.
Well, I mean, I'll obviously stop getting the debt, China. Look for alternative sources of finance. And I think the U.S. and Western Europe should do everything possible to provide alternative sources of finance at reasonable and private investment at reasonable interest rates and on reasonable terms, acceptable to the Latin Americans. But that doesn't seem to be the trend right now. I mean, the trend seems to be to get more and more involved with China. And I'm just waiting for the day to come for the Chile's President Boric to
En quelque temps, la Chine est devenue la deuxième.
To decide to hand Chile's lithium reserves for a joint venture between the Chilean government and China. I think that's coming any day now. We'll see.
Yeah, with Boric, the new president of Chile, have a new scenario in this moment. No, it's very interesting this point about the talk about Chile. Oh, that's very interesting now. Okay, for conclusion, dear Martin Arostegui, what you think about now, this moment, in this week, in this position, China have position now to control all?
Well, I think this week, what we're looking at today, right now, of course, is the growing tensions in the Ukraine and Eastern Europe. As I say, I think everybody, the Biden administration, is absolutely hell-bent on saying that Russia is going to attack, is going to invade Ukraine. I will stick to what I said before. I think it'll be a limited operation to control Eastern Ukraine. That will trigger probably a disagreement between the US and its European allies, mainly Germany, which have a lot to lose in the event of a war with Russia. Mainly its energy supply could become cut off. It's the Nord Stream pipeline that could become cut off, which is supposed to supply with natural gas. And as to whether to apply sanctions, I don't think they already said it would be automatically applied to Russia if the moment a tank moves across the border. I have my doubts about that. I think he will move in and try to, in a subtle way. The Donbas region will declare its independence from Ukraine. Russia will back them up, and maybe some limited military incursion may be done to support that. This is what I think is going to happen. I could be wrong. I mean, you have the National Security Advisor there talking about Russian airstrikes and missile strikes against main Ukrainian cities. I don't think so. I think it will be a part of an action largely limited to Ukraine. What the Ukrainians do may decide what Russia does after that. But I think initially that's what it's going to be limited to. And once he gains a position in eastern Ukraine, he may use that to leverage a change of government in Kiev. But that's what I think is very likely. It's very likely.
It's very interesting. Very interesting. Putin and Xi Jinping have a control now of all. The war, the natural resource, the economics is incredible. And
well, they're trying to. They're moving in that direction.
Yes.
I don't think they have control yet, but they're trying. They're definitely trying.
And NATO depends of this decision, of Putin decision. NATO, international organization, depend of this moment of the Putin.
I think Putin's objective in this Ukraine thing is as much to divide NATO as it is to take control of Ukraine. I think the two things go together. Dividing NATO, I think, is a very important part of the agenda. And I think that's one of the objectives he hopes to achieve that. So I think any move he makes is going to be calibrated on that. You know, it's a move that won't be. I don't think it can be so massive, so blatant that it brings the Americans and Europeans together. Rather, it has to be a very subtle, rather low intensity move, which you can use to maybe wedge away the Americans and the Europeans. The Americans wanting more aggressive reaction. The Europeans saying, "Hey, let's wait and see."
That's the conclusion. That's very interesting. Thank you so much, guys, of this international channel of international law, anti-corruption, compliance. And now we talk with the most important journalist, my friend, Martin Arostegui. Thank you so much for see you next Saturday in this podcast, number 11.
Thank you, Christian. Thanks, Christian, for having me. Sure.
This is an honor for staying this international channel. Thank you, Martin. See you. Bye. Stop.